Considering the current output for legal consultants and legal professional use by the city for various litigations, what would you hope to achieve budget-wise in reducing that output? Or what would you guess might be the estimate the output of the use of outside attorneys in order to carry out your office effectively with all aspects of its requirements? You might not be able to answer all of that now. The next time we have a budget or a panel, maybe we could get more specifics, but I'd like you to get a guesstimate type of proposal as far as the especially the second part.
Thank you. If I could, is it me first? To restate your question, then, if I might, Terry, you're asking what is my expectation and any of our expectations regarding what the budget would be for handling outsourcing and particularly litigation work?
The current impact of the budget, with the impact with you to be able to effectively achieve your goals.
Okay.
And then comparing the impact that we have been facing now using outside lawyers.
I'd like to, very good, I think I understand your question. One thing I would definitely like to do, and city attorneys, at least as far as I've been in those offices, have always tried to do, is to separate the budgets between the advisory services and the day-to-day operations of the city and the litigation budget. Litigation is so unpredictable. It's really hard to know any given year what types of cases you're going to have and how much you're going to need to spend on that. Litigation is one of the more effective things as a result to outsource for that. So while it's important to have an in-house litigator, because the flow of litigation is like this, and you don't want your lawyers tied up, in the courtroom when you've got so many day-to-day responsibilities, that's where you try to focus your outsourcing. But to know what that's going to be is difficult, and usually you work that out with risk management, and the budget from risk management is a budget that you're able to draw on for that type of work. In terms of the other half of your question, I think what you're getting at is, in general, the need for everybody these days, and in private business and in government, to do more with less. That city attorney's office, when it was full flag, if you will, when I was there, had 10 attorneys and maybe 5 or 6 support staff. We were still under siege, with work volume. We still felt like we weren't doing the job that we really wanted to do and that the city deserved. And from what I understand, cities the equivalent size of City of Chula Vista, in population anyway, typically have 12 to 15 attorneys. And so doing more with less is going to be a very big challenge there. And I think working in the budget process is one thing. Seeking grants to fund additional attorney services is another one. In fact, the police chief was able to get a grant for a community prosecutor, 2-year grant for a deputy city attorney dedicated in the police department. Internship programs, I think, will also be valuable. There's an existing internship program there that should be expanded. Those are the things you kind of need to do on the other half of the budget side in order to be more efficient and do more with less resources.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Pei, can you proceed?
Sure. Again, I'll try to phrase the question. I think I have an idea from Mr. Guggins. The problem with a small city attorney's office in a busy city is that with 4 attorneys, the general structure for a city attorney's office looks like addressing litigation, advising the city council, the mayor, and city boards and departments, and enforcement of the city's ordinances to make sure that the things that you and the city pass are enforced. That's 3 areas right there. And if we're talking about 4 or 5 attorneys, one civil case can occupy quite a bit of an attorney or multiple attorneys' time. So I agree with Mr. Guggins that I think you have to separate out the budget for civil litigation, and you may have to send those particular cases out depending on the complexity. Because if your whole office becomes devoted to handling litigation, what happens is you're unable to provide the correct advice, which then spawns more litigation. So you want to make sure that you don't drop down on one particular side. In that regard, I do think only as a short-term measure are grants appropriate. And the reason is because grants come with strings attached. They come with requirements that you follow reporting requirements and you do those things, which means you need more staff to handle that. And they also, they run out. And if you get a grant for a year, at the end of that year, you have to find a way to fund the person that you hire to put in. The problem with internships, and I'm a product of internships, I love them. They work great. The problem is that in a small office, you have to take an attorney away to have them supervise and help the intern. So the balance isn't there. I'm not against internships. They're just not a stopgap measure in a tight fiscal economy.
Thank you very much. Mr. Costa?
To answer your question more directly, there's no doubt that the new city attorney is going to have to do a lot more with less, particularly because that city attorney is expected to be out in organizations and committees and meeting with the public. And so that in and of itself is going to be a drain. However, the city attorney also has to think outside the box on how to create revenue for the city attorney's office. For example, I think that there are opportunities in how we are enforcing our misdemeanors and our ordinance violations, and I think the city attorney needs to work together with the district attorney's office to make sure that the city is actually enforcing its fines and keeping the fines that are not necessarily staying with the city of Chula Vista. If we look at how we can keep money in the city of Chula Vista through the city attorney's office, I think our budget can then increase dramatically. And what that really requires is a good liaison with the district attorney's office and other local agencies that are working with the city of Chula Vista, where our money is kind of going to them. The second way we can save money is to stop hiring loose forward. All right, that's $400, $600 an hour. You know, when I worked for the school district of San Diego, my billable rates, like an insurance company, it's like $175 an hour. There are tons of able counsel in the city of Chula Vista. We need to keep our jobs local. We need to keep our outsourcing local to the greatest extent possible while making sure that we're using the most experienced counsel when we do have to outsource. But they shouldn't be getting rich off taxpayer money.